Hot diggity.
Hallelujah, guys.
It's Mr. Creighton.
And Mrs. Klein.
We are here with your Lesson 36 podcast. It's going to be a combination, actually, of Lesson 36 and 37. It's all about the Reformation. You can start on page 505, and we'll let you know when we switch to Lesson 36, or Lesson 37. This lesson is The Reformation Begins, and the guiding question, what factors led to the weakening of the Catholic Church and the beginning of the Reformation?
All right, you guys, here are the vocabulary terms you should know. Denomination, indulgence, Martin Luther, Protestant, Reformation, and simony. All right, at the height of the Renaissance, Western Europe was still Roman Catholic, but this changed with the beginning of the Reformation. This movement led to the start of many new Christian churches that broke away from the Catholic Church.
The Reformation began in the early 1500s and lasted into the 1600s. One reason for the weakening of the Catholic Church was the humanism of the Renaissance. Many Catholics were dismayed by worldliness and corruption, which is immoral and dishonest behavior in the Church. These problems led to a number of Catholics to call for reform.
In this lesson, you'll learn about the factors that weakened the Roman Catholic Church and how a German priest, Martin Luther, ignited a movement that ended the religious unity of Europe.
All right, so looking at section 1, the weakening of the Catholic Church. By the late Middle Ages, two major problems were weakening the Roman Catholic Church. The first was worldliness and corruption within the Church, and the second was political conflict between the Pope and European monarchs.
Too frequently, church officials failed to live up to their role as spiritual leaders. People were also troubled by the way numerous church officials raised money to support the church. One method was the practice of selling indulgences. An indulgence is a release from punishment for sins.
The Church also sold offices or leadership positions, a practice called simony. Instead of being chosen based on their merit and accomplishments, buyers simply paid for their jobs.
Totally not cool.
Not at all.
All right, next we're moving on to political conflicts with European rulers. In the Middle Ages, the Pope became a powerful political figure as well as a religious leader, and the Church accumulated vast amounts of wealth.
As monarchs attempted to increase their own power, they frequently came into conflict with the Pope. In addition, popes became involved in other political conflicts, which prompted many to question the Pope's authority and also damaged the Church's reputation.
One dramatic crisis unfolded in France in 1301. When King Philip IV tried to tax the French clergy, the Pope threatened to force him out of the Church. The quarrel with the king ended under Pope Clement V, and in 1309, Clement moved his headquarters from Rome to the French city of Avignon.
An even worse crisis developed after Pope Gregory XI returned the papacy to Rome in 1377. When Gregory died in 1378, an Italian was elected pope and refused to move back to Avignon. A group of cardinals, most of them French, left Rome and elected a rival pope, leading the Church to have one pope in Rome and one in Avignon.
That's not going to go well.
Not at all.
All right, this division, you guys, in the Church is called the Great Schism. All right, moving on to section 2 about early calls for reform. By the 1300s, the Church was beginning to lose some of its moral and religious standing.
Reformers wanted to purify the Church, not destroy it. By challenging the Church's practices and teachings, however, they helped pave the way for the dramatic changes of the Reformation.
Are we going to find out a little bit about John Wycliffe? John Wycliffe was an English scholar who challenged the Church's right to money that it demanded from England. When the Great Schism began, he publicly questioned the Pope's authority and criticized indulgences and immoral behavior on the part of the clergy.
Wycliffe believed that the Bible, not the Church, was the supreme source of religious authority. Now we're looking at John Hus. John Hus was a priest in Bohemia, which is today in the Czech Republic. Hus sought to purify the Church, return it to the people, and end corruption among the clergy. He wanted both the Bible and Mass to be offered in the common language of the people instead of Latin.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's a big deal, this move to the vernacular.
That is.
All right, we're going to find out a little bit about another person. Her name is Catherine of Siena. She was a mystic, a person deeply devoted to religion and who has spiritual experiences. She and other mystics emphasized personal experience of God more than formal observance of church practices. This approach to faith helped prepare people for the ideas of the Reformation.
All right, now we're looking at Diederis Erasmus. So Diederis Erasmus was a humanist from Holland. A priest and devoted Catholic, he was one of the most outspoken figures in the call for reform. Erasmus wanted to reform the Church from within and angrily denied that he was a Protestant. who wanted to break away from the Catholic Church. His attacks on corruption in the church contributed to many people's desire to leave Catholicism.
So there were people who were like, you're like, we don't want to break away, we just want to fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, but that doesn't necessarily go very well. All right, now moving on to find out about Martin Luther. Okay, in the early 1500s in Germany, then a part of the Holy Roman Empire, a priest named Martin Luther became involved in a serious dispute with church authorities.
The church stressed that keeping the sacraments and living a good life were the keys to salvation. Remember, salvation means getting into heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Luther's studies of the Bible led him to a different answer. He believed that it was impossible to earn salvation because it was a gift from God that people received in faith. People, he said, were saved by their faith, not by performing good works.
Luther's views brought him into conflict with the church over indulgences. Luther was outraged because he felt that the church was selling false salvation to uneducated people. And he posted a list of arguments called theses against indulgences and church abuses on a church door in the town of Wittenberg.
He argued that the Bible, not the Pope or church leaders, was the ultimate source of religious authority. In the eyes of the church leaders, Luther was attacking fundamental truths of the Catholic religion. In January of 1521, Pope Leo X excommunicated him. That's a callback term. Remember, that means kicked out of the church, which meant he was no longer allowed to be a member in the church.
And he was a priest. It's not like he's like a regular everyday guy. It's like, sorry, buddy, you're not allowed. He's a monk, a priest. You can't be a part of the church anymore.
Yeah.
All right. And then for a time, Luther went into hiding, but the movement he had started continued to spread.
Soon, he was openly organizing a new Christian denomination known as Lutheranism, which emphasized studying the Bible.
Over the next 30 years, Lutherans and Catholics were often at war in Germany. These religious wars ended in 1555 with the Peace of Augsburg, a treaty that permitted each prince within the Holy Roman Empire to determine the religion of his subjects.
All right, now section 4, looking at other leaders of the Reformation. The movement started by Martin Luther swept across much of Europe. The printing press helped spread new ideas as well as translations of the Bible faster than ever before. Many reformers contributed to the spread of Protestantism.
Huldrych Zwingli was a Catholic priest in Zurich, Switzerland. Zwingli wanted Christians to focus solely on the Bible, and he attacked the worship of relics, saints, and images. Zwingli carried his ideas to other Swiss cities.
In the late 1530s, John Calvin, a French humanist, established another Protestant group in Geneva, Switzerland. Calvin emphasized that salvation came only from God's grace. He said that the saved, whom God elected or chose, lived according to strict standards.
All right, and then in 1534, we're talking now about King Henry VIII. In 1534, Henry formed the Church of England, also called the Anglican Church, and named himself as its supreme lead. His reasons for breaking with the church were personal and political.
William Tyndale, was an English priest, scholar, and writer who traveled to Germany and met Martin Luther. He attacked corruption in the Catholic Church and defended the English Reformation.
Tyndale is especially important to the Reformation because of his translation of the Bible. In the early 1600s, his work was used in the preparation of the King James or Authorized version of the Bible.